What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Ultra League running various different teams that are all part of a legendary quartet, including the Swords of Justice, the Forces of Nature, and the Guardian Deities. Now I'm going to be showcasing 2 battles per team, rotating through every possible combination within each quartet, meaning there will be 8 battles per quartet, and of course that means 24 battles in total, so it's going to be a bit of a longer video than usual, but there's plenty of variety to keep you entertained throughout the entire video. Potentially I could have split this up into 3 different videos, but you're more than welcome to split it up into parts yourself if you don't want to watch it all in one go. There will be timestamps in the description. Now, originally I was intending on showcasing Cloth for today's video in the Open Great League, but I ran it alongside Krabby and Kingler, and I managed to get just a single win in the 4 sets that I tried it out in, so unfortunately that's just nowhere near good enough to make into a video. But if there is enough interest, I can do a Crustacean Roulette live stream, as I have basically every Crustacean Pokemon, including the XL Pokemon like Dwebble and Corfish, but it would likely be against my subscribers as most of the crustaceans completely suck. So let me know if you would like to see that happen. I was out in the snow all morning getting quests and raiding to obtain this Pokemon, so it is definitely a bit frustrating to not actually be able to showcase it immediately. But anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is your favorite legendary quartet? They don't have to be in Pokemon Go right now, but let me know in the comment section down below. And with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, kicking things off with the Swords of Justice, leading Cobalion into Swampert. Now, I do have 2 better responses, and wherever Keldeo is going to be on Poison Jab, which is resisted, so I'm actually going to stay in Chip with a Sacred Sword here. The opponent allows that to go through, so I swap into Keldeo, and they're going to come in with a Florges. So this is actually fine with me. We've got Poison Jab for coverage. We go for Aqua Jet, and that connects. It does big damage, and I can probably just shield once now and commit to a full farm down. The opponent full sends Disarming Voice, meaning they do not debuff my attack stat. I get the full farm down. I'm down a shield, but they come in with a Licky, and that is no problem whatsoever. I'm going to go straight for a Secret Sword. Secret Sword does huge damage. If you didn't know, it is a Leaf Blade clone, but of course for the fighting typing, we're able to go for another one there, and the opponent over farming, underestimating just how much energy we had, reach yet another Secret Sword, and we grab the final shield. I'm probably going to get Secret Sword and Sacred Sword mixed up throughout these battles, so I do apologize in advance. But anyways, we're going to come in with Virizion. Should be a pretty comfortable endgame for me, especially since they go for an Earthquake. Don't understand that play. I'm going to no-shield this, and the opponent then full sends a Sludge Wave. Oh my gosh, this battle is all over the place right now, but Virizion just barely able to hang on, and we can commit to a full double kick farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle, Cobalion into a Primarina. So, not ideal for me, but honestly not the worst. I would prefer to see it, well, I guess I would prefer to see it up against my backline because we have super effective damage in either Leaf Blade or in the Poison Jabs. But at this point, we're going to go straight for a Stone Edge here. If they no-shield this, I'm going to swap into my Keldeo. Yes, taking big damage from Charm, but I am able to Poison Jab farm them down. Then I'm going to come in with a Crocodile. Absolutely fine with me. Of course, they are going to resist the fast food damage, but if they commit to a full farm down, I'm going to reach back-to-back Secret Swords before they get there, meaning they're going to have to double shield. So, of course, then I'm going to swap into Typhlosion. I am double weak to fire now that Keldeo has gone down. However, we do have access to Stone Edge on both remaining Pokemon, so I'm going to come in with a Virizion. The opponent full sends the Blast Burn there. Fine with me. We can go for one double kick, go straight for Stone Edge. Stone Edge gets the KO there, and this should be a pretty comfortable win for me right now. We're going to no-shield this. They could be on Outrage, but it's just a crunch there. Of course, they could have access to the buffed Brick Break as well this season. However, the opponent probably doesn't, and so they just concede the match. Heading into the next battle, this time leading with Terrakion. Unfortunately, I'm running double kick here. Usually, when I'm running this trio, I would run, well, the trio before Keldeo was introduced here. I would run Smackdown for the coverage up against, say, Fire-type Pokemon or Flying-type Pokemon. This time, I've opted for double kick, and it is definitely hindering me in this battle, but I'm going to swap out there. The opponent able to react in time, going for Psyshock there rather than the Aura Sphere, which they would have done. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter too much as Terrakion is going to take super effective damage from both of those options. But either way, nice play by the opponent there. We do grab the final shield, and unfortunately, they do still outpace me to the next charge attack. They're going to go for Psyshock this time around here. Maybe they went for Psyshock the whole time. Maybe I just wasn't paying that close attention. Either way, Rock Slide gets the KO there. They're going to come in with a Komodo, and unfortunately, it's not looking too good for me. But we can go for Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword is going to be, of course, connecting as all shields are down. However, unfortunately, Virizion only has resisted charge moves. They go for Upper Hand. Upper Hand drops my defense. They then swap into Empoleon. However, unfortunately, Leaf Blade just isn't going to deal that much damage, and the opponent already at the Drill Peck. Drill Peck is double super effective. It easily takes out Virizion. We can come in. I'd need to fully farm them down, but actually, it's the Terrakion that gets farmed down, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Terrakion in the lead up against a Giratina. So at this point, I'm going to stay in. I'm going to no-shield this. Terrakion is definitely not super bulky. I think Terrakion and Keldeo have similar stats, and then Virizion and Combalion have similar stats as well, but they are definitely much bulkier than the Terrakion and the Keldeo. But either way, I'm going to go for a Rock Slide here. Rock Slide is going to get the Giratina fairly low, but it's still, unfortunately, going to be quite tricky to take them out. So we come in with Virizion. I'm not confident that Leaf Blade will KO from this range, so I'm actually not going to throw straight away. And as a result, the opponent able to reach yet another charge attack. It's going to be another Dragon Claw. They're going to get Virizion incredibly low. I will finally fire off a charge. I farmed up to a Leaf Blade and a potential Stone Edge. Well, actually one away, just in case they had a Fire-type Pokemon in the back. But either way, they're actually going to shield the first. Then let the next let the next Leaf Blade go through. But they swap, and they have a Empoleon and a Swampert in the back. So Virizion, I believe, we banked a Leaf Blade there. We come in with the Keldeo. They are, of course, double resisting the Poison Jab damage, which is already non-stab, so it really doesn't do much damage. However, that Secret Sword did a lot of damage, and actually, I can shield now, and I've put them into range where I can Poison Jab, farm them all the way down there, coming out with so much energy. We can now go for back-to-back Secret Swords here. First one is going to connect here. The opponent does still have a shield in play. They will eventually have to use it, but we're going to go for another Secret Sword. They do use the shield, so I'm just staying in. I'm waiting for the opponent to throw, but they do not throw. Instead, they're farming to back-to-back, but Secret Sword gets the KO up against the Swampert, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Cobalion into a Cresselia. So this time we're not using the Keldeo, and this is definitely where we want to see this Pokemon, just because, of course, I'm taking neutral damage from the Confusions. I will take neutral damage from a potential Moonblast or even a Future Sight. The opponent gonna go for the Moonblast there. No debuff there, which is ideal for me. We're now gonna farm up and go for another Stone Edge. Stone Edge really not dealing that much damage, however. Cresselia very bulky. At this point, I think I'm just going to no-shield this. I was hoping maybe they bait with a Grass Knot, but nope, they full send the Moonblast. We're going to come in with Virizion, and we are going to go and fire off a Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade, unfortunately, probably still won't get the KO up against Cresselia, but they do end up shielding. So at this point, I'm also going to shield as the opponent goes for another Moonblast, and now I'm going for another Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade should get the KO from this range. No, actually, it doesn't, but we can get the full farm down. They're now going to come in with a Licky Licky, absolutely fine with me. We can go for Leaf Blade here. Of course, we've not shown that we're on Stone Edge yet, but the opponent is just going to no-shield anyways. I tried to catch a Body Slam onto Terrakion, but they full send the Shadow Ball. However, their final Pokemon is going to be a Sucker Punch Belly Bolt. So, of course, I'm not going to resist the Electric type damage, but I am resisting the Fast Food Pressure, and I can go for back-to-back Sacred Swords here. First one, grab the final shield. Second one is going to connect. However, unfortunately, they can go for a Parabolic Charge and boost up their defense. So what I'm going to look to do is bank a charge move, then swap into Virizion, look to overfarm as much as I can, and throw here before they do reach another charge move. Unfortunately, however, because they're boosted, it does not get the KO. We can go for a Leaf Blade here up against the Licky Licky. The opponent gonna fire off the charge move, and the opponent gonna go for a Body Slam, but that doesn't KO. However, it does not allow them to come out with a Shadow Ball loaded, meaning we get the full farm down, and a Sacred Sword would have got the KO from this range, but we full send the Rock Slide. We take out the Belly Bolt, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle, Cobalion into a Surfetch. So, of course, this is not a great matchup for me, but I am going to be double weak to the fighting typing, as I also have Terrakion in the back. So, kind of just forced to stay in here. Going to go for a Sacred Sword. I'm able to grab a shield, And unless they go and full send like a close combat or like a Brave Bird or something, I should be able to no-shield that, and I might even grab both shields or just put them into range where I can farm them down. So I'm going to swap out, but they come in with Cresselia. That is certainly not ideal for me, but we can go for Leaf Blades here. Leaf Blades, very spammy on Virizion, taking just 3 double kicks to get there. I'm going to shield this. I think this is just going to be a grass knot anyways, but I kind of need to use my shields at some point throughout the battle. So here, we're going to go for another Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade is going to connect, and at this point, I should be able to reach a Stone Edge on CMP. I think Stone Edge is going to do more damage here, so I do throw this. Stone Edge is going to connect, and yes, that does do a little bit more damage than the Leaf Blade. Still, not quite into range where I can farm them down, so I actually swap into Terrakion, and I'm able to reach a Sacred Sword. Does this get the KO here? Unfortunately, it just barely doesn't, and I'm going to be forced to use my final shield. The opponent fires off the Leaf Blade. They're going to come back in with Cresselia, and because I couldn't get the KO there, that is likely going to be costly for me. We go for Sacred Sword, but they're going to have an Ampharos in the back, and here I make a catch onto Virizion. But I probably should have just stayed in there. I probably should have just thrown a charge move, because now, unfortunately, I don't really have any play. I don't think Terrakion is going to reach back-to-back charge moves, so I guess my only play is hoping the opponent tries to commit to a farm down, but they don't. They fire off the Brutal Swing. We can go for one, go for Sacred Sword here, and I kind of need damage registration error here. It does big damage, but we do not get to a second charge move, and unfortunately, Ampharos able to sweep the entire backline, and we do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there into the next battle, this time not running Virizion, and we see a really good matchup for me. Smackdown Crustal, honestly, possibly the best thing we could see here, as we are going to completely wall them. I guess maybe Tyranitar would be slightly better for us, just because we deal huge damage with the double kicks and Sacred Swords, but either way, really positive. Then I'm going to come in with the Skeledirge. I'm able to chip with the Stone Edge, and that's actually going to allow me to get a KO with just a Secret Sword here. I don't even need to full send an Aqua Jet. So, of course, I'm going to go for Secret Sword on CMP, and I'm able to get the KO there. They come in with a Charm Primarina, but we do have the coverage in Poison Jab, and we are very spammy, so I'm able to reach one, and able to reach a second Secret Sword up against the Primarina, and this might even grab a shield from the opponent. It does grab the shield there. We're going to come in with Cobalion, and nothing that Crustal can do is going to hurt me, so I might as well shield up in this matchup. I'm going to bait here. Honestly, I probably could just get away with going straight for Sacred Swords anyways, but we've got the energy for the Stone Edge. Let's just play it safe this time. Stone Edge gets the KO, and we're going to swap into Terrakion, of course. Still going to resist everything they can throw here. Of course, Rock Wrecker would do a lot of damage, but they only reach an X-Scissor. We can go straight for the Rock Slide. Rock Slide going to hit for super effective. It will be taking out the Crustal, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top opponent there, final battle for the Swords of Justice, as we're going to see Cobalion once again into a Swampert. So, once again, I'm actually going to choose to stay in this time because I kind of have to, as I do have Terrakion in the back. So, we're going to go for the Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword is going to connect, and I do reach a second Sacred Sword here before they even throw a charge move. At this point, we get them very low. Honestly, I do not mind that whatsoever. I'm going to no-shield this. The opponent full sends the Earthquake, but that's okay. We put them into range, or I can actually go for a Poison Jab farm down, huge for me, and let's see what they want to do. They're going to come in with a Como. Oh, I can go straight for Secret Sword. Secret Sword does decent damage there, and we can reach yet another Secret Sword, as we did get a huge farm down up against the Swampert. I'm now going to swap into Terrakion, expecting the opponent to go for upper hand, but they farm up to back, and I'm able to win CMP. Sacred Sword is going to grab the final shield from the opponent. However, they do have back-to-back charge moves, so the opponent's actually going to choose to stay in this matchup, and then swap into Skeledirge, maybe looking to try and catch a charge move. However, they swapped out slightly too soon. We can now full send the Rock Slide, and I recognize I do not need Terrakion anymore. Actually, nope, never mind. I recognize I might as well bank a charge move. What am I talking about? Okay, we come in, and once again, we have put them into range where a Secret Sword, double assisted, will get the KO. The opponent's going to farm up to back-to-back charge moves. However, Terrakion will be winning CMP in this matchup. We have that Sacred Sword banked. Of course, Sacred Sword from about 5 HP will be taking out the Como-O, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent there into the Force of Nature, and as well as having 4 different Pokemon in this quartet, there are also, well, 3 of them have alternate forms, which are also available in Pokemon Go right now, so I do kind of chop and change between those forms for the battles. Of course, Enamorus only has the single form at the moment, but for the graphics sake, they're all just going to be in their sort of genie form rather than the animal form. But anyways, at this point, one of the worst things we could see in the lead, however, we're able to grab both shields here, debuffing their attack 2 stages with the Wild Bolt Storms, and now we can come in with Enamorus. I'm able to reach a Fly on CMP, once again winning CMP in this matchup. Fly gets the KO there, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Licky Licky. I'm going to swap out, bank some energy, and come in with Landorus because I realize I'm taking neutral damage here from the rock typing if we swap out, and now the opponent swaps into a Gastrodon, but they don't even farm to the Water Pulse, so that is huge for me. I can just no-shield that. Really doesn't deal that much damage, and of course Mud Slaps, they're double resisted. I go for Sandsear Storm, I debuff their attack stat, and now I recognize I'm still going to need a Focus Blast to take out the Licky Licky. So I'm going to bank the energy, come in, snipe with the Fly, and I'm just hoping that Focus Blast will be enough damage to one-shot that Licky Licky. They still have a ton of HP remaining, a very bulky Pokemon in the Ultra League, but it's about to find out. Is this enough damage here? We're going straight for the Focus Blast. Focus Blast does one-shot them, even non-stab, to take out the Licky Licky, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. We're going to use the Incarnate form again with the Thunderous. I'm going to go for a Wild Bolt Storm here. Of course, Brick Break did get buffed this season, but it'd be completely useless in this battle. It does also have access to Crunch, and I would have run that previously, but I'm going to no-shield this. Torch Song doesn't get the KO there, or even put me into a single Incinerate farm down range because I debuffed their attack stat. And now we come in with the Landorus. Of course, they're going to go for another Torch Song here, boosting up their attack stat once again. I'm going to look to throw on CMP, but the opponent banks the energy. They swap into Florges, and of course, Sandsear Storm is going to debuff their attack stat, but they're going to hit for super effective damage with the Chilling Waters. So I'm going to go for another Sandsear Storm, dealing decent damage. I should still be able to tank a charge move here. So I'm going to no shield. They actually go for Disarming Voice. That is much better for me. And now I'm going to bank my energy, swap back into Thunderous, and catch the charge move. Disarming Voice gets the KO. And I think now we come in with our Enamorus. Of course, that Skeleturge does still have energy, and the opponent will be able to reach the charge move here. But that's okay with me. I'm going to shield this. They actually full send a Shadow Ball, so I probably could have overfarmed more than this, but I'm going to play it safe anyways. Fly gets the KO there. Their final Pokemon is going to be Shadow for Alligator. I tried to throw on CMP. The opponent doesn't throw immediately, and as a result, Dazzling Gleam, big damage. We swap out straight away. Go straight for that Sandsear Storm. Sandsear Storm takes out the Feraligatr, one more Mud Shot, takes out the Florges, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. Speaking of Florges, we're going to see it in the lead here up against our Thunderous once again. I'm going to stay in this matchup. Going to go straight for Wild Bolt Storm here. Of course, I'm going to win CMP in this matchup if they throw it immediately, but the opponent actually going to farm up quite a lot of energy first. And even if they full send a Moonblast, I should just barely hang on there. By the way, these Pokemon are very glassy, if you didn't already know this. But we go for Wild Bolt Storm. Going to come in with the Therian version of the Tornadus, just because I believe the other version only has Air Slash and Bite as fast moves, which are both absolutely awful, by the way. So we're running the Therian form just because we've got access to Astonish. We've also got insane coverage with Focus Blast, and we are full sending it right now. Focus Blast gets the one-shot up against that Shadow Empoleon. And let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in, but they come in with a Galarian Moltres. So we swap out straight away into Enamorus. Of course, I'm going to shield here. Could be Ancient Power. Doesn't really matter. They go for Fly. Honestly, that might do more damage than Ancient Power anyways. I don't really know. But either way, we're going to go and fire off a Fly of our own. Fly grabs the final shield, and we can throw another Fly straight away. Fly will be getting the KO here. And now all I need to do is make sure I throw a charge move. Oh, no, what am I doing? I tried to commit to the Dazzling Gleam, but I lost track of their energy, and now we're so low on both remaining Pokemon that they will just be able to Sucker Punch, farm down the remainder of my team, and unfortunately I do lose that game. So, GG's opponent there, into the next battle, another Florges in the lead. I will say, like, Ultra League is a lot of Florges right now. It is a little bit boring, but I guess, you know, it's boring in all leagues, to be honest, this season. But anyways, we're going to go for another Wild Bot Storm there. Debuff on that attack stat. We already know we can tank this, but it's just a Chilling Water this time around. So, I'm going to go for another Wild Bot Storm. Wild Bot Storm, because I have been debuffed, barely doesn't get the KO there. However, we do get them very low. I'm now going to swap into my Tornadoes, and the opponent swaps at the same time, but they come in with a Trevenant, and that is fine with me. This is just going to be a Seed Bomb here. They did not farm up to a Shadow Ball. I mean, maybe they figured because, you know, most Flying-type Pokemon are also Normal-type Pokemon. Maybe they thought Shadow Ball would be double resistant. I don't really know. Either way, I'm going to shield once, commit to a huge farm down. And again, they're going to come in with a Moltres, but I'm full sending Focus Blast. It connects. It does huge damage. And now all I need to do, shield once, commit to a full farm down. Even if they swap back into Florges, it does not matter. We can just Fairy Wind, farm down the Florges as well, commit to the farm down up against the Moltres. They've still got 2 shields here, but I can't do anything with them. And so I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there, into the next battle. Very awkward lead for me. I was going to lead with my Landorus, this time in the Therian form. We've actually got triple Therian forms here, and we are going to swap into Tornadoes. The opponent is going to fire off the charge move. They're just going to go for an Air Cutter bait there, which does not get them the boost. That is quite nice for me. We're going to full send Focus Blast. It connects. It does huge damage. Unfortunately, just barely not getting the KO. However, it doesn't matter what they throw now. I might as well just shield this up here, and the opponent's going to come in with a Florges. This time, I'm going to go for Bleak Windstorm, as of course, Focus Blast would make no sense. We debuff their attack stat, and the opponent is going to reach a debuffing move of their own. Likely going to be a Chilling Water here, and we can still go for another Bleak Windstorm, and at this point, they're going to be double debuffed, so I don't really have a problem with coming back in with my Landorus. Of course, I don't want to allow them to fully farm me down here, so at this point, they're going to go for another Chilling Water. Chilling Water, going to debuff my attack stat. I'm going to look to overfarm, but I lost track of their energy again. I mean, I did these battles quite late last night, so do excuse me here, but either way, going to go for the Sandsear Storm. Sandsear Storm doesn't KO, but the opponent snipes me with Empoleon. We just barely miss out on reaching a Sandsear Storm, but I think we should be fine anyways. We can actually go for a Wild Bot Storm straight away, debuffing their attack stat. That should allow me to live a Hydro Cannon in this matchup. However, you know what? I might as well just shield the first one anyways, because this will force them to expend some more energy. If I let the first one go through, they can try and commit to a full fast move farm down. And you see, we don't actually tank that comfortably, but they tried to swap out and catch a charge move. It backfires, and as a result, Wild Bolt Storm takes out the Empoleon, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there, into the next battle. We see Togekiss in the lead, so not ideal for me, especially since I'm not running Rock Slide or Stone Edge on this version. I've got a Focus Blast as my coverage move here, which is, yeah, not ideal for me. So, I'm going to swap out into my Thundurus. Probably should be swapping into my Tornadoes here, but either way, the opponent's actually going to stay in. I am resisting the fast move damage, so I might as well just overfarm here. And the opponent makes a really nice catch, though. They catch a Wild Bolt Storm onto Skeledirge, but we debuff their attack stats. And if I throw this one here, I honestly might be able to reach another one if they commit to a full farm down. We see I debuff their attack stat, and I will reach yet another Wild Bot Storm. Wild Bot Storm is going to connect. It gets them incredibly low, where just a single Astonish should KO, and they are double debuffed. They go for Torch Song. It doesn't deal much damage. They come back in with the Togekiss, and I've got 2 shields. I might as well start using them. They go for Side Shock. I'm now going to see this opponent's going to swap back into an Empoleon. I'm going for Sandsear Storm. Sandsear Storm should be grabbing the final shell from the opponent, and it's also a CMP tie, which is literally perfect for me. At this point, we're going to no shield. Hydro Cannon gets the KO, but remember, we've got Focus Blast for coverage, and we are full sending once again. Focus Blast up against Empoleon, gets the one shot. They come back in with the Togekiss, but they need to reach back-to-back charge moves or commit to a full farm down. They're going to get neither. Bleak Windstorm takes out the Togekiss, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there, into the next battle, Landorus into a Florges once again. So, unfortunately, since Mudshot did get nerfed quite a few seasons ago, Landorus is actually not that fast to reach that Sandsear Storm, meaning I have to swap out. I'm going to catch onto my Tornadoes. However, unfortunately, because I swap out quite late, they reach another Chilling Water before I even reach a single Bleak Windstorm. So, at this point, I am going to overfarm, but unfortunately, this is just not going to deal that much damage. Bleak Windstorm is going to connect, but the opponent will still have to throw another charge move, otherwise I would to reach yet another Bleak Windstorm. So they go for Chilling Water there. I'm now going to come in with the Landorus once again, and the opponent swaps into Virizion, but that's fine with me. They tried to make a catch there. It does not work out, and they do not farm to a Stone Edge. Leaf Blade is resisted. However, honestly, a second Leaf Blade is probably going to threaten a shield. Otherwise, it will get me very low. So we go for Fly on CMP. The opponent actually ends up shielding there. Honestly, don't mind that because I can just match shields in this matchup. These double kicks are going to be double resisted. We can go for another Fly. Fly is going to grab the final shield. They swap back into Florges, but I'm still able to outpace them, reaching yet another Fly. Fly gets the KO there. The opponent's going to come in with a Shadow for Alligator, but I make a huge mistake here. I didn't bank enough energy. We go for Sandsear Storm. We're able to reach another one here. What I probably should have done is undercharge this, but instead it gets the KO. They come back in with Virizion, but they completely wall my energy as I'm not running the Landorus that has focus bars. Instead, I go for Sandsear Storm, hoping that's going to help me out here. We are going to no-shield this. Leaf Blade gets the KO, but they've got so much energy, and they end up denying a fast move as well. The opponent goes for Leaf Blade. Actually, denying the energy didn't make a difference. We still wouldn't have made it to another charge move, and somehow Virizion able to take out the Enamorus there. And unfortunately, I do lose that game, but definitely GG's to the opponent there. Misplayed on my end, but they played that perfectly. Into next battle, gonna see Como. Oh, I believe this might be the final battle of the Genies or the Force of Nature. They're gonna go and full send a Clanging Scales before swapping into for Alligator. I go for Sandsear Storm. This is a non-shadow, so that doesn't really deal that much damage, and they probably don't need to shield this either, and the opponent doesn't end up shielding. So at this point, I'm already down a shield. I'm just going to no-shield this. We can come in with the Tornadoes, get a full Astonish farm down, and because they have the Como O in the lead, as I expected, the opponent does not want to come in with the Como O, meaning I'm going to align my Enamorus, and things should be looking fine. I'm able to go for that Bleak Windstorm, debuff in their attack stats. It's going to be a battle of the debuffs here. I'm throwing the next one just to guarantee that I can throw this before they debuff my attack stats. The opponent will be firing off another charge move. Probably still won't get the KO from this range, so I'm actually just going to stay in, go for yet another Bleak Windstorm. They're going to be triple debuffed, so we can go for it, then swap into Enamorus, and now I do not need to shield this, even if they full send a Moonblast. So I'm going to no shield, just a Chilling Water. We're able to reach a Fly already, and at this point, even though we're debuffed, it makes no difference. Fly gets the KO. There is nothing Como O can do unless they're running like Boom Burst, which they're very unlikely doing, so I'm able to take that game. Now heading into the final quartet, we have the Guardian Deities. So at this point, we are going to stay in this matchup here as the opponent does swap out into Skeledirge. They full send a Shadow Ball. So at this point, I'm going to go for Nature's Madness. You can see I'm running Brave Bird for coverage on this Pokemon, but actually, I'm able to grab a shield with the Nature's Madness, go for a second Nature's Madness, and Nature's Madness is going to grab another shield. At this point, because they're double debuffed, I can come in with the Tapu Lele and go for a full Confusion farm down. Now, the opponent had a Guzzlord in the lead, so my entire team should be very strong into Guzzlord. Tapu Lele has the worst matchup just because Confusion is going to be double resisted, and we do take neutral damage from the potential Dark-type moves, but either way, we're looking absolutely fine. We can come in with the Tapu Bulu. There is literally nothing they can do here. Even if they've got Sludge Bomb, they're going to be outpaced, and so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's opponent is the next battle. We see Giratina in the lead. So, this is going to be a little bit awkward for me just because they are going to be on Shadow Claw, meaning they are going to resist my fast move pressure whilst dealing neutral damage in return. But Nature's Madness is going to connect. It does huge damage, and of course, it drops their defense. However, I'm going to swap into my Tapu Lele just because I realized they were debuffed there. I kind of need the fast move pressure to get a full farm down. The opponent's going to come in with Typhlosion. They no-shield the first move, but that's fine. That means I can now shield once, and I'm not even going to take a single more Incinerate damage as we get the full farm down there. They come back in with the Giratina. I'm going straight for Psyshock. Psyshock is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. The opponent's final Pokemon is a Poliwrath. My entire team completely dominates Poliwrath, so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Tapu Koko into a Tentacruel. So, honestly, not that bad to see it here. We also have Tapu Lele. So, whilst, yes, this is a triple poison team, we've got two Pokemon that can fight back in this matchup. Of course, Volt Switch, super effective. They actually no-shield that, but because we debuff them, we can just snipe with that confusion damage, but they come in with a Shadow Victory Bell, dealing big damage with the acids, but likewise, I'm dealing huge damage with the confusions. Maybe I should have gone for Nature's Madness there, just because I expected them to shield that, but either way, I'm going to shield. They then swap into Guzzlord, and now we can go for another Nature's Madness. Nature's Madness, going to grab the final shell from the opponent, and now we come in with Tapu Fini. However, the opponent likely going to be on Sludge Bomb. They are on Sludge Bomb. That does decent damage, and now we can go for another Nature's Madness here, but I need to be smart. I'm going to go for an Undercharge, and that doesn't get the KO. That is huge for me. That's going to allow me to farm down with the Tapu Koko, and hopefully that's going to allow me to reach a Charge Reef up against the Victory Bell. However, unfortunately, we just barely miss out on reaching that Charge Reef. They get to the Leaf Blade, but can one Confusion get a simultaneous KO? Yes, we're able to at least tie the game there, although honestly, I felt like we maybe should have got more from that battle. So GG's to that opponent, very well played. Into the next battle, we're going to see Tapu Koko into a Shadow Dragonite. So this is a really good matchup for me. I'm going to resist all of the Charge Reefs here. They go for Superpower. Honestly, that did not look resisted. That was non-stab damage as well, but either way, we go for Nature's Madness. I'm going to stay in, then look to swap out and catch a Charge Reef onto Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini gonna be the bulkiest Pokemon on the team here. They can reach back-to-back Charge Reefs, but they are resisted, so honestly, doesn't matter too much. They actually go for a Superpower there, which is, of course, going to debuff them, make it easier for me to get the farm down, or actually not get the farm down, but at least KO with a Surf, but they come in with a Shadow Raikou. They get a huge farm down there just before I reach another Surf, but we can come in with Tapu Lele, and the opponent will be firing off the Charge Reef. They farmed up quite a lot of energy, but they full sent a Wild Charge, likely Aura Sphere is their other Charge Move, and it's a little bit risky to bait with a double resisted Charge Move, so they full send it, but they debuff their defense by 4 stages in the end. We get the KO there, one more Confusion, gets the full farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We are not running the Tapu Koko this time around, and unfortunately met with one of the worst Pokemon we could possibly see now that we're not running it, in the form of Empoleon. We're going to swap out. I tried to catch a Hydro Cannon here, does not work out at all, and I'm forced to shield a Drill Peck before throwing a Grass Knot, which is caught onto a Florges. So honestly, this is going really badly for me. At least I will resist the typical Charge Moves here. Unless they're, of course, gonna full send a Moonblast, so that is bad news. I mean, I don't really play Ultra League too much. I know in the Great League, Trailblaze is preferred, but I guess in the Ultra League, people do like to run either Moonblast or even the Disarming Voice there, just for some Fairy-type Charge Move coverage, because Fairy Wind just doesn't really add up that much. Anyways, to come back in with Empoleon, I should be able to reach a Nature's Madness and a Psyshock before they farm me down here, so I will be firing off back-to-back Charge Moves. Of course, I'm debuffed in my attack stat, they're debuffed in their defense, but their final Pokemon are going to be Insane Spice. They've got a Shadow Latios, my favorite Pokemon. However, unfortunately, they're going to be quite a lot spammier than the Tapu Fini. I shield the first move, they drop my defense. Honestly, my only win condition is if they no shield, call a bait, but they end up shielding. You can see, even if I baited with a Surf, I wouldn't reach the Nature's Madness anyways. Lost the Purge, gets the full-on one-shot, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle. I'm going to see a Tapu Lele into a Shadow Ampharos. So we're going to stay in this matchup here. I will just go straight for a Psyshock as I can win CMP and likely grab a shield advantage as the opponent is going to respect the damage there. At this point, I'm going to no-shield this. They go for Brutal Swing. Unfortunately, they will be able to fully Volt Switch farm me down, but we can come in with Tapu Bulu and completely wall the energy, unless they're running Power Gem, but that's unlikely. They full send a Focus Blast, but again, that did not look like it was resisted damage. Honestly, Tapu Bulu is a lot classier than you might expect. Obviously, most people really only familiar with the Tapu Fini, maybe Tapu Koko from time to time, but Tapu Bulu is an insane class cannon. Either way, we're going to go for a Surf here, calling that they would just bait with a Chilling Water. We get the KO. The opponent's going to come back in with the Shadow Ampharos, and unfortunately, even though I expect this is just going to be a Brutal Swing, I have to shield anyways. It is the brutal swing, but I'm now going to swap into my Tapu Koko. And literally the only Pokemon I could probably beat with the remainder of my Pokemon at the HP they're at is going to be a Tyrantrum. What the heck is this doing here? I'm not going to complain. That worked out in my favor. So GG's to that opponent there. Into next battle, back with Tapu Koko, we're leading into Turtonator. So at this point, of course, resisted fast food pressure on my end, but I can at least go for Nature's Madness, and the opponent going to farm up to 100 energy before they throw a single charge move. Nature's Madness is going to grab a shield there from the opponent. They're going to go for a Dragon Claw. That's fine with me. I'm going to go for another Nature's Madness here. Nature's Madness might end up grabbing both shields from the opponent, and it does exactly that. The opponent is going to swap out. They try to snipe with Florges, but not before I'm able to reach a Brave Bird. Brave Bird does huge damage, and now they can farm me down. Of course, I realize Tapu Bulu going to be pretty useless into the Turtonator, at least behind on energy, so I might as well bring it in here. And once again, we can resist the charge moves if they're not running a Fairy-type charge move here. So we're going to no-shield again. They go for another Chilling Water, and at this point I do have to throw some energy. I go for an undercharge, hoping to go for a Bullet Seed farm down, but they can just swap back out of that matchup, so I don't really know why I didn't just farm up to 100 energy first. But we go for Nature's Madness. We now come in with the Tapu Fini here. I'm going to shield this, of course, and the opponent goes and full sends a Beak Blast. Now, I'm expecting whatever Turtonator has is going to be resisted by the Tapu Fini, so we go for Surf. Surf gets the KO there. They come back in just to be farmed down by the Water Gun damage, and they come back in with Turtonator. Now, unfortunately, I am debuffed. They full send an Overheat, and I lost track of their energy. It's another Overheat. It gets the KO. They are going to be quad debuffed in their attack stat, but they still get the farm down. I massively misplayed that battle, but GG's to that trainer. Now going into possibly the final battle of this video, leading Tapu Koko into the Dream Lead, which is going to be a Galarian Moltres. Now they swap into a Primeape here. Honestly, even though I've got a triple fairy team, this Pokemon is still going to be very annoying to deal with because they're just so spammy. They can go for a second Rage Fist here, and I am just barely going to reach a Nature's Madness before they reach yet another charge move. So we go for Nature's Madness there, even though I know Surf is going to be cheaper just because I don't intend on using any shields here. So instead, I might as well debuff their defense there, making it easier for me to Volt Switch farm them all the way down. So we get the Volt Switch farm down there. They come in with a Skeledirge, and now I'm hoping the opponent is just going to swap out once I come in with the Tapu Bulu, and the opponent does exactly that. Honestly, Skeledirge completely walls the Tapu Bulu, but they swap back into the Galarian Moltres. We can go for Nature's Madness. That connects. It does huge damage. They allow me to reach another one, and this should be game over right now. Nature's Madness is going to grab the final shield. They're going to farm up to back-to-back charge moves, which is definitely the smart play. However, they're going to go for a fly. We can come in, and we will come out with a Brave Bird loaded. So all I need to do is shield this. The opponent full sends Brave Bird. It means we're going to have the Brave Bird loaded. They come back in with Skeledirge. Brave Bird gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.